Good morning, good morning. What's going on, guys? Let me know if you guys can hear everything all right. All right, what's going on, guys? Let me know if audio's all good. Let's see. You. All right, perfect, perfect. What's going on, guys? So, yeah, let's get straight into it. So, the play that I'm watching for, let's see, 4 hour daily. I'm gonna honestly wait for a confirmation here, only because like this, whenever I look for a dip up buying opportunity, I like to see the dip buying opportunity before any runs on stop. So if we go to the daily time frame, we've already taken out the Friday high, and then we kind of formed a 4 hour bearish ABP, right? And we create this bearish imbalance. So for the euro, I just kind of want to see it reclaim this fair value gap. I don't want it to see it below. Realistically, it really should just form some sort of confirmation in here. So when people ask me when do I buy the dip right away, usually when there's like a dip buying first, like imagine the market dropped like in here, and then we formed this 4 hour ABP somewhere in here before we took out Friday highs. Now that we took out Friday highs, doesn't mean that it's not going to still potentially go higher, but now I want to see that confirmation in structure in here. So then that would confirm. Like imagine we get like a inversion here, and you see this big down candle. If we get like a big bullish candle and form an inversion, now our eyes can look for all this liquidity in here. So yeah, the only reason why again is because typically when you have a 4 hour bearish EVP, even though we took out the EVP low, it just becomes a next area of resistance the market has to fight through, right? I like to have the opportunity before the market takes out any liquidity pool. And the reality is we took out the prior day high and then formed the 4 hour EVP. Now, this is a perfect example of like what just because you see an EVP doesn't mean that it's an automatic sell, even though it did drop a little bit from that next candle, right? Because again, the overall narrative when we go to the daily time frame and the weekly time frame is we're sitting at this weekly fair value gap. So if I sync this in here, we're sitting at that weekly fair value gap that's present in there. So we're sitting at support. So that's something that, I'm just waiting for some sort of confirmation here, even on the hourly time frame, right? Because right now we don't have any inversion, we have nothing. Buying the dip right away is not like, it's a little bit more risky again, just because we took out liquidity and then we drop lower. So I'm waiting to see what's happening on this. Now going to NQ, this is what I was telling you guys yesterday. I need to see some sort of bearish confirmation for me to look for the sell, all based off the daily EVP, right? And then yesterday we actually got nothing. And I mean, there was a little bit of an opportunity on the 1 hour time frame, a little bit here, but for the most part, this is why I say if I have a daily bias, I need a 4 hour bearish confirmation. Because imagine you went down to the 1 hour and you saw this, right? You might have been like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and sell short. Now there was a little bit of a move, but now we're pushing higher. That's why whenever I have a daily bias, I need to see a 4 hour confirmation. And to be honest, I think NQ, especially if we close on this 4 hour bar like that, this is essentially now an order block. And I would not be shocked if we started to head higher to that 25,780s. 4 hour bar is about to close in like 12 minutes. And that's really why I usually avoid the market open and I start to trade around 10 o'clock, simply because around 10, the 4 hour candle closes and it gives me a little bit more clear direction. But this looks like we're at the very least going to possibly sweep out this full high in here. Because even look at the daily time frame, how we're forming. And this looks like this might have actually been a swing low. So we'll see what happens in here. But yeah, NQ looking pretty bullish, to be honest. And what else do I have? There was actually a nice little setup here on gold that I missed because again, like I'm a little bit sick right now. But on the 4 hour time frame, right? Like this is why again, just because you see an EBP does not mean anything. The overall swing on the 4 hour time frame, right? We have a swing low, swing high. And not only that, if you go to the daily time frame, we had yesterday's daily candle close above the prior bar high. So this kind of indicates strength, at the very least, to push back up maybe into like a deeper premium. So look at how we have this 1 hour time frame. When you guys ask me what's a good confirmation, right? This is a prime example. Look how the market drops into an hourly fair value gap, right? And again, I wouldn't buy that dip right there. But when you get this imbalance, this is what I'm trying to wait for actually on EU. So it's actually a really good, like, if I could see this on EU, that'd be perfect. Look how we have this bearish fair value gap overtaken by this bullish one. Then imagine you're still like, okay, I want to still wait for confirmation. This is just like even better because then you have the 1 hour EBP that forms at a key level and we're inside of bullish market structure. So swing low, swing high from this 4 hour swing point. This, imagine like you look for an entry on this candle wick, then you have potentially two possible entries because this already kind of confirmed. So if you bought that, stop loss like below here, and then you can even add further if you get this 1 hour EBP as a confirmation. A little bit upset I missed this, but went to sleep pretty late last night and yeah, still like a little bit under the weather, but this was beautiful, right inside the golden hour. For you guys that know, 7 o'clock range, boom, and even on the 15-minute, you get that 15-minute confirmation. Beautiful fair value gap in here. I mean, this was absolutely textbook. Like if you guys want to look at it actually like a textbook EBP play on the hourly time frame, right? We get the hourly EBP, beautiful sweep inside of overall market structure, right? So there's like some sort of clear draw on liquidity, which is at 44.86. And then when you go to the 15-minute, you see a beautiful fair value gap within the hourly. That is your move right there. So this was very, very nice. That's what essentially what I'm looking for on the euro, ideally. So if I go back to the euro, I want to see something like that, right? Like something like that, like over here. So we'll see what happens. So I'm waiting for some sort of confirmation, ideally on the 4 hour time frame. So this might take a little time to set up. But again, I'm not rushing. But NQ looks pretty bullish though. If I go to the hourly time frame, let me go to the 4 hour. I do think we're probably going to just take out these highs in here. If we go to the 15-minute, yeah, it might be one of those cases that just rips straight off the excuse me. But this is like the area to watch. So let me see this sweep. Where's yeah, because we swept liquidity, we inverted right here. So now this area has like price sensitivity if we even come back down here. I don't know if we will because this is a fairly big swing, but I'm watching for that 25,780, something like this. If we can kind of even if like the next hourly candle forms a doji, that would be kind of ideal, create a fair value gap and then come back down into it before we rip higher. Like if we just rip straight into this, and obviously the trade is no longer valid for what I'm looking for. But this does look like we're going to take out the highs as we're kind of talking about it now. But yeah, pretty much. Is it bad that I have entered already? Which trade specifically? If you're talking about euro, there's nothing wrong with it per se because we are inside of this overall swing low to swing high, right? And if you do the 50% mark, we're at the 50% mark. So this, because again, sometimes if you wait for a confirmation, the con for waiting for a confirmation is you might not get the entry. But if you're like trying to swing this for a big potential all the way up here, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. But for me personally, I just have a rule where if I am looking for a long setup, I'm not going to fade an EVP that's formed after liquidity pool sweep. So we took out prior day highs, as we see here on the daily time frame. We took out the prior day high, right? We formed the 4 hour bearish EVP. So my rules personally is I don't buy something like this unless I get like another 4 hour bullish setup that forms. Yeah, man. This I appreciate you. Thank you, brother. Yeah, this, I mean, dude, like if you guys want to go ahead and backtest hourly EBPs, again, hourly EBPs are used within 4 hour structure. Excuse me. So, like for example, if you are inside of a 4 hour or daily structure and now you're just looking for an hourly confirmation, right? Because the 4 hours showing you bullish market structure. And then mind you, this EBP formed and it confirmed the bullish sequence, right? Because look, we respected this bullish fair value gap, boom, balanced price range. Then we drop into it, and now, so now guess what this is right here. This is bullish market. I'm so upset I missed this, man. Very upset about that one, but it is what it is. But because we see these plays all the time. Hopefully, go NQ form something. So, but this, right? Think about it like this. What is this structure? We have a swing low, swing high, very clear structure. This overall like market structure, right? We have this swing, right? Now let me use a different color so we can differentiate it. okay, let me make this like right. So now when the market is coming down, like let's say into that fair value gap, right? Right here, I don't know if the market is going to have like, a reaction, but what does it do? Boom. So now we have this balanced price range, right? In here that formed. So now when the market comes down here, what happens, right? We essentially have our hourly EBP, boom, and we still have the higher high that was maintained. I love this. When the market, this entry is actually a lot better. When you get like, let's say a confirmed, so you get one low, you get a second low, and the higher high is still maintained. This is my favorite because what happens is this higher low point is much easier to get that expansion move to the new highs. And all this is just market structure confirming. So we have one impulse, right? Impulse at a key higher time frame level. The market comes back into that, boom, and now we're just continuing bullish market structure. That's what this is right here. So this is a prime example. When you guys ask me like, oh, what's a good confirmation entry? This is a beautiful example. It gave you two opportunities. This one right here would have been good enough, right? But like, let's just say you wanted to even wait even further, right? But again, a balanced price range after the market hits like a discount at a key level, this is enough. So just again, when you journal, you should journal the market like as a confirmation like this, right? Especially if we form a balanced price range where there's another fair value gap that forms, beautiful. Take a screenshot and note and like say, hey, we came off this hourly fair value gap. We created a balanced price range, which is essentially a bearish fair value gap overtaken by a bullish one. Let me set an alert here actually, just in case so I don't miss it. And then, and then this was just a kicker because this is just even better. You don't even have to wait for another confirmation here, but this is like where you can add a second position. I mean, this was just absolutely textbook. Like if you guys are going to like trade EBPs, like this is a really prime example of this. Because again, the context is also higher. It's not just about the hourly EBP. It's about the hourly EBP forming inside the New York Open within a 4-hour structure and even the daily candle, right? Like this daily candle from yesterday essentially closed above here, created all this order block. We took out liquidity and we have a strong displacement. So the next candle, you typically can anticipate some sort of bullishness. All right. Also, guys, for those of you guys have been asking me, Apex does have the last date is today for the 90% off sale. If you use the code TRADE, it'll give you 90% off. So you can get an account as low as $20. So today is the last day for that. So I'm just going to keep that up here while I go through the comments as well. And let me just go. Yeah, so NQ, I really hope we get a setup in here, to be honest. But sometimes, again, when we have these really big pushes, it might be a little bit slow. Yeah, ES already took out the highs. And well, NQ did take out those highs as well, but we'll see. But this is essentially the play. If we get a fair value gap as well that forms before we take out the high, that's honestly going to be it. Let me also just have Euro here because I'm still mind you guys, I'm still interested in the Euro longs. I'm just waiting for a good confirmation. If you want to enter right here, to be honest, it's not the worst thing in the world. Because I think this one rips to like 1 point. I think we take out new highs. I think 1.180s is going to be the minimum, and I think at the very also like 1.1760s. I think these two areas are going to be essentially where we could head, but I'm going to wait for a little bit of a confirmation in here. Yeah, and NQ just ripping straight to the. That is the con, because some people say, well, if you miss the New York Open instead of like you always wait for 10 o'clock, won't you miss moves that just rip straight off the Open? And my answer is like yes, but I'm gonna miss trades regardless. I'm just way more comfortable trading going into 10 o'clock. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have also kind of felt the volatility at the Open. Like I just get smoked, and I know that like whenever I trade from 9:30 to 10, it's not the most ideal for me. Doesn't mean like someone else can't crush it at the Open, but yeah. Plus again, like where. Yeah, like even on the 5 minute, there really wasn't any clear. I mean, maybe you could say argue this 5 minute EBP, but that was like right after the market opened. It kind of just ran straight higher. So if you didn't get long anywhere in here, it's kind of hard to get into this even after the open. Can I enter EBP 1 hour base bullish on daily bias is bullish? You can, but it's gonna be a little bit more aggressive. Like for me personally, I told you guys about the framework. It's typically daily to the 4 hour. That's personally what I'm looking for. And then from the 4 hour, I'll usually look, depending. So like the 4 hour bias is going to be dependent on how I talked about this. I think on one of the live streams before, it's going to be dependent on how big the range is. So if I'm looking at a strong, like imagine that this is a 4 hour range, right? I'm going to need a 1 hour confirmation because it's a huge impulse. But if it's like a small 4 hour EBP, like imagine assuming like let's just assume this is a bearish EBP as an example, right? If it's a small candle like that, then I can go down to the M5, M15. So again, for the 4 hour, it depends on how big the impulse. Like for example, this Nasdaq here. If I'm looking for some sort of sell setup from this swing high down to that swing low on the 4 hour, I need to see an hourly confirmation because it's a very big swing. So that's essentially how I do it. Again, you could experiment with the hourly time frame with daily bias. For me personally, I've noticed I avoid way more losses doing this. Like if I get a 4 hour confirmation with a daily bias, it just works way better for me. Now we're going to essentially have this impulse from swing high down to the swing low. And the thing I like about this overall range is we took out that liquidity pool here. So I'm going to sync that. Could see the market possibly come down into here. Honestly, I'm really hoping that the next candle kind of creates a doji and we create a fair value gap. That's like my most ideal. And then we kind of look for that sweep above 25,800s. So essentially something like this, because we've already swept lows, strong closure right now. The hourly bar closed right above this swing, overall swings. So maybe we get it, maybe we don't. 30-minute time frame. Yeah, there's no fair value gap, so we might just rip straight higher, to be honest. But I'm kind of waiting to see if we can kind of get something like this before we take out this high. If we take out the high, then I'm not buying the dip anymore, or I'm not looking for a buy. Now, because this is a very big impulse, this is kind of like where I would look for, let's say the 5-minute or the 15-minute to come back down into here and then have some sort of like confirmation buy as well. But let's see if we even get that pullback. Excuse me. Yeah, man, like I highly suggest if you guys journal to check out that gold trade, because that gold trade like was like literally textbook. Like when you have a clear 4 hour daily direction and then you have a clear 4 hour like structure, anytime I look for a swing, it has to be some sort of liquidity pool sweep and then the market has a push above the prior swing high. So this was a prior high. It's harder to see on this 4 hour candle, but like essentially we took out liquidity and then we push and close above that prior structural high. So we're continuing overall market structure. So when the market dips down, everyone will see this 4 hour EBP like as a reversal, but you're fighting again, you're fighting support levels. It's the same concept of why I don't want to buy EU just right off the gate, because if I'm buying here, there's a very strong support resistance at this fair value gap. And yeah. Yeah, so this, the GC chart that I'm using is the futures chart. That's why it looks different. Excuse me. But if you're trading FX, if you're trading like CFDs, then yeah, AX, but it's still the same price action. Look, like you still see the same 1 hour ABP that formed. I just use GC because I'm trading futures. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Let me go back to NQ right before. Excuse me. If you hadn't explained an A+ setup, this gold setup would be the perfect trade that you always look for. Everything lined up perfectly. Exactly. You know what's also a really good setup that lined up perfectly yesterday was dollar yen. So I'm gonna keep an alert here just so like if I flip through the charts. Dollar yen was like literally perfect. So look at the daily, yesterday. We had a beautiful daily EVP. Now, to be honest, this could just be consolidation because we're kind of fighting between swing low to swing high, but you can still trade a reaction because this is a huge daily candle. So now when we have the daily EVP, look at the right, when we go down to the daily EVP, right? What do we have here? We have there's a fair value gap on the hourly time frame. So we have this pretty much this structure, swing high that took out liquidity, and then this swing low. Then we also have this fair value gap. Look at how the market during Asia session formed. It doesn't form an EBP candle, but essentially forms like a candle called like a pin bar, where we take out the prior bar highs and we close within the body of the candle, right? Now look how this, and then so now look what happens. You get a confirmation here on the hourly time frame, and you have a clear fair value gap to the downside. So even if you're not looking for the lower low on the this candle's bar is low, you can still target like imbalances on this impulse push up. So whenever we have a move up into a resistance, right? This is what people need to understand. When you have a move up to a resistance, so many people look at this type of structure. And if you guys have been in the academy, you know what I'm talking about here. There's always going to be the lower low, which is I call it point C, right? Point C, where the market is going to make a lower low because in bearish market structure, right? If the market forms some sort of like a high in here, we're typically going to aim for the new lows. However, on the way to the new lows, right? This push up, this is called a retracement leg. Inside of this retracement leg, there might be support levels like fair value gaps. So if there's a fair value gap in here and there's like a little bit in here, those are going to be potential support areas as the market makes new lows. So if I have like something like this, guess what? If you have this pin bar, ticks up the prior bar high, closes inside the bar's range, and we have this fair value gap, the next candle, you can just go to the 15-minute time frame and see if there's any fair value gap that forms. Same exact way that we do it with the same exact way that I do it with the EBP candle, right? Beautiful fair value gap entry right there. Stop loss would go above the candle bar high. Maybe you could squeeze a little bit tighter stop loss on the 5-minute, not really. Same thing above here. And then you would just target that fair value gap as long as it's still present. And then look at this. So this is what I like to see, time frame alignment. Look how the daily had a key bearish EBP, right? Then we got the 1 hour confirmation. And this was during the Asia kill zone. And then when you go down from the 1 hour down to the 15-minute, you see a clear fair value gap. And you see a clear, even a bearish EBP on the 15-minute as well. So when you get like 2 to 3 time frames aligning, that's my bread and butter. When people ask me like, what am I waiting for? That's why, again, like I might not be as like active as someone who's looking for quick scalps. But even now, like I'm adding 4 hour, 1 hour, and M15 in terms of like candle anticipation. So like, yeah, I'm using daily buys, but I'm also looking for, hey, can I anticipate the next 4 hour candle, right? Like for example, on NQ, this is a pretty bullish, strong candle that closed above this prior high. So now this next 4 hour bar, right, it's my 4 hour bias going into the session. I'm looking to see, hey, can I anticipate this next candle to be another strong bullish candle like this that clears this high? Because we've also inverted this, right? We've inverted this now. And this is why I don't get, bro, like this is why like some people, they get married to a bias. I just wait to see what the market is showing me. The market failed to go lower multiple times, respected this inversion, and now we have a strong bullish confirmation above here. Now, again, sometimes we'll wait for all of this, and then the market ends up just ripping higher without giving us an opportunity to get in. But I'm okay with that because I can trade multiple opportunities, trading the 4 hour candle, trading multiple assets. So this is a good question. So for gold specifically, I would always take the high. I'm always conscious of the high, right? So if this is the higher high point, right? I'm not going to always put my TP because sometimes you get big expansion moves like this. But what I would do is I go down to the 5-minute time frame and I'll try to trail my stop loss on every structural low. So let's just say maybe you got in on the hourly EBP here, stop loss was there, right? What I'm going to do is as soon as the market pushes up and makes new highs, right? And we close above the prior high, my stop loss immediately gets moved to break even. And then what I'm going to do is once there's a fair value gap that forms, if this gets respected and we make new highs and close above like we did on this candle right here, I then adjust my stop loss over here, right? Now, to be fair, I probably would have taken the profit on this next leg up because then at that point, the risk to reward makes sense. Because if I entered here, stop loss was like right there below the buy of the candle, right to the high, it's still a decent risk reward 1.24, assuming you didn't get down, you didn't buy that hourly bounce price range. However, now like if the risk reward, I'm up to almost 3R, 2.5R, and I'm just trailing my stop loss to see if we can get like a bigger impulse push up. Because again, sometimes when we make new highs, especially in an asset like gold that has been trending higher, you want to try to squeeze a little bit of the move as much as possible, right? But you don't want to be like, okay, well, I'm going to hold for this high. Because what's the likelihood we're going to rip all the way up here? Or like, oh my God, I'm going to, maybe you like tell yourself, I'm going to hold for this little bit of a fair value gap. You could do that, but you should always trail it based off of like structural lows that form. Yeah, so I just talked about the confirmation. Go to gold, and this is a perfect confirmation for me. When you have like a balanced price range. Balanced price range is when you have a bullish fair value gap and you have a um, bearish fair value gap that was inverted. This is like a really prime confirmation setup. Yeah, appreciate that, man. Thank you. I want to go live a lot more going into the new year. And even like, the thing is this, teaching and like making YouTube videos is cool. And don't get me wrong, I have like a bunch of videos planned for you guys for this year, but there's nothing like, I don't know, I just enjoy more like kind of breaking things down in real time. I just personally think it's a little bit better for the learning experience. Right. So now hopefully we can kind of get that hourly fair value gap. So again, this is why I trade like I show up. So let me give you guys a hack if you have. I'm gonna right now, let me show you guys what's gonna happen. I'm gonna remove your over trading. So this is what I want you to do, even if you're a scalper. I want you to show up. Like if you're gonna like, let's say if I'm waiting for this hourly fair value gap, right? Realistically speaking, this candle's not gonna close until like for 50 minutes, right? So if I know this candle will not close in 50 minutes, right? Obviously I'm on stream, but still, what can I do? I can just show up to the charts about 15 minutes before the candle closes. So I can kind of see and gauge, okay, well, what's forming right now? Now, if you do this for every 1 hour candle, right? If you do this for every 4 hour bar, I guarantee you, you're going to save so much more mental capital. I guarantee you that you'll stop over trading because this is all I do now. I wait for every 4 hour candle on NQ, gold, and even sometimes like the euro and dollar yen. And then what happens if I see a clear 4 hour direction like I do here on NQ to possibly to take out these highs? Guess what? Now I'm gonna wait for now I'm gonna usually wait for like an hourly candle as well. So if I could wait for an hourly bar and I show up during like now, okay, maybe not every 1 hour close, right? Because there's so many 1 hour candles, but the hourly close is inside of my kill zone. So if I'm trading the New York session, right, I'm gonna look for the hourly candles typically from 7 to about like 10, right? If I'm trading the Asia session, it's gonna be the hourly candles maybe from 7 to also 10 Eastern, but this is like PM, right? This is AM Eastern time. So if you show up 15 minutes before every candle close and all you're doing is trying to, the same way that the same way that we're doing daily bias, and this is like where all my content is going to shift for Instagram and YouTube and Twitter. If you forget daily bias, I know most of you guys, I've listened to you guys a lot. Most of you guys, I understand, hate daily bias because it takes too long. Guess what? So now you can have a 4 hour bias or you can have a 1 hour bias, and you can just anticipate the next hourly candle direction or the next 4 hour candle direction. And then what happens is you get more opportunities because there's like how many 4 hour candles in a day, and there's a lot of 1 hour candles inside the session. So all you need to do is just anticipate one candle and create a system around this. So the same way that I use daily bias, I'm using this as a way to kind of gauge like 4 hour bias, etc. Because if I know that, hey, I'm going to look for buys on the next 4 hour candle, it makes my life easier and I know what time each candle closes. I guarantee you, if you follow this, you will 100% reduce your overtrading. Guaranteed. The problem is like sometimes people are going to wait for a dip opportunity, right? And then what happens, actually, let me just mark out this 5 minute gap in here. But the thing is, most people, they'll wait for an opportunity and then they'll get impatient. So then they'll just start like taking shit trades. Like imagine, like, okay, imagine I saw this 4 hour bearish candle, right? For me, like this doesn't do anything for me because this doesn't tell me much. So if I don't really have any bias on like the next 4 hour bar where it could potentially go, whether it's a big strong candle like this that closes above market structure. So this candle is called a thrust candle, essentially where the market breaks above the prior structural high and we have a close above it. Typically, this type of candle just indicates that we're going to possibly head higher, and you don't want to see the low of the candle form get taken out, right? However, it's a very big candle, so like you kind of have to wait for a little bit of a confirmation or an entry, right? Because you want to get like a nice entry. The problem is like if you enter like on the retracement here, your stop loss theoretically has to go below this candle bar's low. Pretty wide stop. People who don't mind wide stops, sure, but for me, I like to maximize risk reward. That's why I have the 5 minute gap in here. And realistically speaking, if we like, let's say we see a 5 minute setup in here, then I'll be likely to take that as well. So that's why I have the 5-minute fair value gap in here. The 1 hour is probably going to form, to be honest, as an imbalance point, but again, 46 minutes. So I'm just going to wait to see what happens up here. The same thing that I'm kind of like, if this can form right here, if we get like some sort of inversion on euro. See, and this is why I said, like, I don't like to buy, I have a rule specifically. If I'm looking for a dip buy and the market forms like an EBP after a sweep of liquidity, like we took out prior day highs and we created a bearish fair value gap, this to me is now I'm fighting through this resistance, right? So if I'm buying over here, if the market's pushing up into this area, this is a resistance. So for me, I need to see some sort of like strong bullish candle like that, maybe not in one go, that inverts this. Until then, that's why I said I'm going to be a little bit more patient on euro. I don't think it's ready yet. Maybe who knows? Maybe this is like it just fades off and makes new lows, and it's not even bullish at all, right? But this is how, like, for me, if I'm not buying. I never buy a dip after the market takes a significant liquidity pool and it forms a 4-hour EBP. Like that to me, yeah, it's just a little bit more risky. So there's really no difference outside of the way that you measure your risk. So obviously with with futures, like they just use ticks versus on CFDs they use pips. And the calculation is really, but it's really the same. Like it's really the same price action. CFDs are essentially I think also the prices are a little bit different. Like it says 44.90s on GC futures, and then gold CFDs is like 10 points lower, 44.81. But the price action is pretty much the same, right? Like it's the same exact price action. It's just semantics. Because CFDs are not like you can't trade CFDs legally here in the US. That's why it's like we like typically you'll focus on the futures or unless you trade with a broker. Yeah, guys. So if you're asking me about confirmations, like I've talked about it multiple times, you could just rewatch this clip later on because I know a lot of you guys are asking me about confirmations. Just check out gold 1 hour time frame, and you could just check out this video, the recording of it. Oh yeah. So let me talk about. So I'll probably end on this, but let me just. So the game plan right now, if you guys are hopping in, and I'm gonna post in the Telegram. I'm waiting for this 5-minute fair value gap to possibly get traded down into. Maybe honestly, I don't know if we will or not. That's why I have an alert here. And then from here, I want to see another like maybe like something like this, right? See how we have a 5-minute EBP or maybe some sort of like bearish fair value gap that gets inverted. Confirmations are actually, you know what, guys, join the Telegram. I'm gonna give you guys a PDF of all the confirmation entries that I use. I have it in my Notion template for my trading game plan. I'll just give it to you guys for free because I know like that's a big thing. So I want you guys to understand what I mean when I'm saying I'm looking for confirmation. Now, again, maybe this 5-minute EBP sends it higher, but I'm waiting for this gap in here, a little bit of a retracement. So it's gonna require a little bit of patience, but yeah. But in terms of stocks on the watch list, um, well, honestly, I was just kind of like marking these out because I was seeing the hype between Palantir and Nvidia. I saw XBEV, which is like they called it the China. I'll be honest, this was just like based off of like influencers that I'm following. What else? I think SoFi. I think I took that out. Oh yeah, SoFi was another one. Um, these are more like honestly the only things I'm really just averaging into is SoFi and XBEV. Nvidia and them are like a little bit too high. Also, I want to start adding. That's the thing. I do want to start adding like a stock portfolio as well. I'm a little bit late to the game when it comes to that, to be fair, but better late than never. So yeah, that's kind of like why I have these stock holdings sometimes on my watch list, just to watch them from time to time. Yeah, see like that 5-minute EBP that formed. Sometimes in a very aggressive market condition, it's not going to give us the retracement. I mean, it still could, but it's just too risky for me to buy it up here when there's like this big gap down there. Even like look, even the 15-minute, right? The 15-minute has this fair value gap as well. So it's like, do you really want to like buy up here when there's a potential for that gap to fill? So we'll see what happens. The 15-minute gap is pretty much below that. So let's mark out that 15-minute fair value gap as well. So I would be watching any 5-minute confirmation inside of this gap. Right? We have this clear high above here. This is that 15-minute gap. So the market does come back down into here. That's kind of where I'm watching for a confirmation entry for the push up to here. So let's think of that all together. 25,800 essentially is where I'm looking for the market to push up into. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you beat me to it. Yep. 15-minute fair value gap right there. Beautiful. So hopefully we get that like drop down into it, and then we can start looking for confirmation entries. Yeah, the PDFs are going to be posted in the Telegram. Let me post the Telegram link just in case maybe you guys are not in there. I'm going to post it in the comment section. I need to learn how to like pin stuff inside of here. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do it, but yeah, pretty much I posted in the comment section. You guys can kind of join that Telegram. That's where I'm going to post the PDF. Yeah, that's what it is. Like the thing is this, man, if you want to gather data on the setup, you kind of have to either, I don't know how to code, but I just had someone else do it for me. I paid them I paid them some money to code it in general. And that's why I'm confident. That's why I preach EPP because number one, it's super simple. Like all these people that I see teaching, like, oh my God, this Reaper fair value gap. And then like there's this one guy, like again, not to throw any shit on anyone, right? Because I think Ali Khan's like very, very like I think he's very knowledgeable. I think he's a pretty dope person, right? Like I've talked to him a bunch of times. But like when I see like people like him and others on Twitter who I see like they put so much stuff on their charts and I just don't understand it. Because it's like, bro, like in order to make good decisions in trading, you have to be in a situation where you can clearly look at the marketplace, right? Like if I have like 20,000 different lines, I'm going to confuse myself when it's time to execute. That's why simplicity is needed. Like, I'm sorry, unless you're like some quant who like wants to like, code something that's super that has like so many different variables and stuff like that, and you're using automation, sure, you can bring complexity in that space. But as a retail trader, I mean, like, bro, all that matters is like, do you have a clear system and strategy? Can you optimize your risk to reward? And can you get a decent win rate? That's all you should be focused on. And you can do that pretty simple. It's not rocket science. So that's why I'm a big proponent of just keeping trading easy, bro. When you understand candlesticks, structure, liquidity, that's all you need. But too many people they try to overcomplicate it. And again, for some people, maybe that works for them. But I just think for most people, man, like it's not. It's going to be a very difficult endeavor. So yeah. Next to your message, there is the 3 pin. Let me see it. Okay, maybe I have to do it on Okay, I see it. Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. So that's the Telegram channel right there in the pin message. Okay. Beautiful. All right, guys. So remember, the game plan is this. I'm just watching to see any 5-minute confirmation at that 15-minute gap as we're retracing lower. And I do think we're going to head to that 25,800. So what's a confirmation? Let me just anything that comes down in here, again, doesn't have to come all the way back down here. But like if we have a bearish fair value gap that gets inverted, if we have like a M5 or M15 EBP, that also counts for me as well. Like I'm watching for something like this, right? Because we're getting that dip, that retracement on that 4-hour bar. Because now I'm trying to anticipate this 4-hour candle to expand higher because we've inverted this. So the bias looks pretty good for the bullishness. I just need to see some sort of confirmation. Hopefully we get that retracement at the very minimum to that 15-minute gap. But yeah, guys, on that note, again, this is what I'm watching for. I'm going to post it inside the Telegram as well, the chart of what I'm watching for. And yeah, just because I have a friend who's coming over in a bit. So yeah. But appreciate you guys for hopping on. Again, I'll post the stuff on the Telegram. Give me like a couple hours because I have to go meet up a friend real quick. I'm going to go grab some breakfast. But I am watching this. I have an alert right there. I'm going to actually make the alert a little bit higher to that 15-minute fair value gap. Let me remove this. Okay, 25,780s. And yeah, and I will say this, if someone wants to like buy the dip straight outright, I'll say this, it really should not go, in my opinion, down below 25,660s. Like if it comes down here, a wide area would be 20, can't even speak, 25,660s. Let me see the 1 minute time frame. Yeah, but that'll be a pretty aggressive stop loss. But we'll see. Hopefully, we can just get the 15-minute fair value gap. That's what I'm really hoping for. Gonna add another alert just to make sure. But the 4 hour buy is very, very clean. So now we're just looking for M5, M15 to give us a little, somewhat like a decent pullback. Nothing too crazy, a decent pullback. Ideally over here, 25/700s or down to the 15 minute. And then confirmation to kind of go long to make the stop loss tighter. So like the reason why I like confirmation is because the stop loss is much tighter, right? If you get a 5 minute entry and you have like this liquidity pool all the way up here, then yeah. But as I'm watching, I don't know if we're gonna get that, man. If this closes a 5 minute EBP, very likely that we just kind of like rip higher. Closes in about 1 minute, but I'm gonna wait because yeah, I don't want to like buy this and then we end up coming down into here. But from my experience, I usually see like whenever we have like double EBPs like this on the 5 minute, in an aggressive like trend like this, sometimes we'll rip higher straight to the objective. But again, my play is waiting for that. Like that's going to be what it is. If I miss it, it is what it is. I'll probably just check some, like maybe for a reversal during like PM session for a scalp. But yeah, appreciate you guys for hopping on. Again, if you trade with Apex, their last day is 90% off for today. I'm gonna go ahead grab a few accounts. They're literally only $20. You do have to pay an activation fee, but for me, it's like if you pass the challenge, the activation fee becomes just like a business expense. And today is the last day for the 90% off. So you can get 50K account for literally $20 if you use the code TRAIN. TRAIN. Appreciate you guys. I'm gonna post everything inside the Telegram as well. So appreciate you guys. It's in the pin message, and I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll do another live session tomorrow. Peace.